treasonous princes, wolf goddesses, dungeon crawling, siblings with questionable relationships. There's a lot of variety on the top 10 this week. Hello everybody and welcome to the weekly countdown of the top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan. This covering the week of January the 14th to the 20th of 2019. About half the list switches up this week, and in fact, number 10, which I'll get to very shortly, is kind of interesting because it has just, like literally in the last couple of days, been licensed by Yen-On. So let's just get right to it. At number 10, with 4,484 copies sold, volume number 3 of Tensai, Ouji no Akaji Saiseijutsu. Or, as Yen-On is going to be releasing it, The Genius Prince's Guide to Raising a Nation Out of Debt. Hey, how about Treason? This one, as I said, has just been licensed by Yen-On. So far they have set an August release date for the first volume, although it being some ways out, I wouldn't be surprised if that could potentially change. Now, this title is also notable because it was number 4 on the new works list of Kono Light Novel ga Sugoi of 2019. So again, we've mentioned before, they do numerous top 10 lists in Kono Light Novel ga Sugoi, and that particular list is for any new volumes, like new series that came out during that year. So this being a volume 3, obviously it started relatively recently. This one, funny enough, even though it's just been licensed, there's not a lot of information out there in English about it. Basically, though, the series is about a prince who inherits his kingdom after the death of his father, but he has little interest in actually ruling. Instead, he wants to sell the kingdom off. The only problem is the kingdom's in such bad shape that no one would buy it. So it's up to our reluctant ruler to fix the kingdom so he can get rid of it. So it actually sounds kind of fun, actually, I think. So obviously it's a pure fantasy series. It's not an isekai or anything like that. And I imagine that it strikes me that it's kind of like how a realist hero rebuilt the kingdom, in the fact that it, I believe, is probably going to focus a bit on socioeconomics and the politics and all that kind of stuff. But instead of a hero who's relatively noble in mind, well, like we have in Realist Hero, I kind of think that we're going to get a bit of a slimy anti-hero. I'm not too sure, but I'm kind of looking forward to checking this one out when it comes out. At number 9, with 4,492 copies sold, volume 21 of Ookami to Koushinryou, or as we have it in English, Spice and Wolf. Now, of course, this was on the list last week. This one, the series about a traveling merchant who finds his fortunes, well, forever changed when he encounters a wolf goddess who takes the form of a beautiful young woman with wolf ears and a tail. This series, as I said last week, it had come to an end, and then the author basically came back and kind of restarted it. It's more like a long epilogue. I compared it to sort of like a love note to fans, basically, that each of these volumes, it's called Springlog is the arc, if you can really call it an arc per se, but kind of focuses on the main characters a little bit later in their life, and is sort of short stories and such, just sort of showing what their life has become and where they've ended up. At number 8, with 4,973 copies sold, volume number 5 of Ikinokori, Renkinjutsushi wa Machi de Shizuka ni Kurashitai. Or, as it's going to be released in English, The Survived Alchemist with a Dream of Quiet Town Life. This has actually just been announced as a new English licensed by Yen-On. First volume set for release later this year. And at the same time that they announced that they had licensed the light novel, they also announced that under the Yen Press brand, they have licensed the manga. 200 years ago, the kingdom of Andalgia was destroyed by the monsters of the demon forest. The sole survivor is an alchemist named Mariella, who managed to escape through suspended animation. When she wakes up 2 centuries later, she learns that alchemists have gone extinct, and potions are now at a high premium. But what does the last alchemist standing want more than anything else? A laid-back, quiet town life. So again, another fantasy title. I kind of have to think that she's going to get anything but a quiet town life, being the last alchemist. I imagine she will deal with, well, a multitude of different situations. I'll be definitely checking this one out when it comes out later on. At number 7, with 4,992 copies sold, Volume 10 of Kumo desu ga Nani ka? Or, as we have it in English, So I'm a Spider, So What? This one is licensed for English release by Yen On. Volume 5, they're going to be releasing that March 19th of 2019. The manga is also licensed for English release by Yen Press, and there is currently an anime in production. I used to be a normal high school girl, but in the blink of an eye, I woke up in a place I've never seen before, and I was reborn as a spider? How could something that's nothing more than a tiny spider, that's me, possibly survive in literally the worst dungeon ever? Are there no rules? There should be some rules. Who the hell is responsible for this? Show your face! So that gives you kind of an idea of what the main protagonist is like. I've read the first 2 volumes in this series, and actually I have the 3rd one because it is definitely a series that I want to keep reading. We've talked a little bit about this actually in our sort of 2018 wrap-up video, because I believe it was Kyle, but this was one of his top picks for 2018 for pretty good reason actually. It's one of those series that read the first volume and I was like, okay, it's cool, you know, I really like the main character. She is very fun and somewhat sassy and everything else. But then you get to volume 2 and wow, like it just, the story really starts spinning and you start realizing that it is a lot bigger story than what you initially believed it was going to be. I found myself very pleasantly surprised by volume number 2, so this is definitely a series that I want to read more of. At number 6, with 5,142 copies sold, volume 4 of Rokudenashi Majutsu Koushi to Memory Records, or Memory Records of Bastard Magic Instructor. This is actually a spin-off series of the series Akashic Records of Bastard Magic Instructor. We do not have a license for any of the light novels, either the main series or this spin-off series. The manga of the main series is licensed by 7 Seas. They're going to be releasing the 6th volume in April of 2019. Now this one, I really just don't know much about how this works. The main series is about Lumia and Sisti are mages in training at a prestigious magical academy where they hope to be taught by the best of the best. However, when their favorite instructor suddenly retires, his replacement turns out to be a total jerk. He's idle, incompetent, and always late. Can Lumia help uncover their new teacher's true potential? And can Sisti still learn magic and unravel the secrets of the mysterious Sky Castle with such a terrible mentor as her guide? Now, as far as I understand it, I think this series are kind of side stories. I don't know that they are set before, during. I really don't know much. There's not a lot of information in English about the spin-off series. Of course, the main series even had an anime based on it, so there's lots of information about that. But yeah, so if you're familiar with the spin-off series, I'd really appreciate, like, even if you can just give me a little bit of an idea about what it is, whether they're like a lot of other spin-off series, whether they're sort of short stories just set within the timeline, whether they're prequels, whether it's a mishmash of both. I'd be really interested to know. At number 5, with 5,583 copies sold, Volume 21 of Sword Art Online. This thing has sold 207,000 volumes since its release. Of course, the series is licensed for release in English by Yen On. They just released Volume 15 back in December of 2018. There is, of course, the new anime season that is currently airing, which is covering up until 21, the last arc of Sword Art Online. Volume 21, as I have stated again and again, starts a brand new arc, and of course is the first time that we're getting brand new non-web novel based material in Sword Art Online. So, it's actually, Frog, I was just on Twitter earlier this morning, and Frog finally got around to starting to read it. So I'm kind of looking forward to her thoughts on what sort of modern Reiki Kawahara returning to the main Sword Art series is going to look like. Because, of course, this one, as I said, it is the first brand new material based in the main Sword Art storyline since like 2008. And it's just, I'm very curious to see how this compares to, say, the rest of the series, which was written by Kawahara back, well before he had anywhere near as much experience as what he has currently. At number 4, with 6,153 copies sold, Volume 10 of Sengoku Komachi Korotan, or Chronicles of the Hardships of Komachi in the Sengoku Era. We do not have an English license for the light novel series. One fateful day, a girl time-slipped into the Sengoku Era. It was an abrupt enough event to be dubbed God's whim, done to sate hellish boredom. The girl has no power to change the world. She was a very ordinary, common, and plain girl that can be found anywhere. And that girl can do no more than a single thing: survive the Sengoku Era. That is all. So it's kind of like a historical isekai. I don't think really isekai is the right term to apply here, obviously, because she's not going to another world, which is what isekais typically are. As far as I understand it, this is just purely a almost historical piece, but using a modern person that has now been brought back into that era. We've seen a number of light novels that kind of do this, but I think this is one of the first ones that I've seen where the person doesn't occupy a historically important role in terms of when they've gone back in time. Like there's one, of course, I believe, where the person becomes Nobunaga and stuff like that, or becomes like the right-hand man of Nobunaga. Like they always seem to, be someone important, or they take on the persona of a historical figure. This one, it just seems like she's just living in the time period and having to try and survive, which could be kind of cool to check out. At number 3, with 6,746 copies sold, Yakusoku no Neverland, Mamatachi no Tsuisokyoku, or The Promised Neverland, Mama's Reflection Song. No license for the light novels. This is actually the second light novel based on the Promised Neverland series. Of course, we do have the manga, which is the source material and is licensed for English release by Viz, and there is currently an anime airing for the series. This one's been on the list for the past couple of weeks. They seem to be kind of like focusing on specific characters in the series, giving us a little bit more information, fleshing them out. Even in some cases, I believe in the first one, it focused on a character after certain events that had already occurred in the manga. So it seems like your typical sort of light novels based on a manga. It's kind of giving you stories that either the manga doesn't cover, or it is just going more in-depth on characters that otherwise maybe the manga did not cover because of how it's telling its story. So in any case, this one's been on the list for a couple of weeks now, so clearly The Promised Neverland is quite popular. Anybody watching the anime, is it any good? What are your thoughts on that so far? Because I know when this first hit the list, when we were talking about the manga, a lot of you said the manga was really good. Just kind of wondering what you think of the anime now that it's been out for a couple weeks. At number 2, with 9,206 copies sold, Volume 11 of Arrow Manga Sensei. This one we do not have licensed in English, at least the light novels. The manga is licensed by Dark Horse Comics. I believe the second volume is set for currently an April release. The first volume is currently available. Did have a 12-episode anime which aired April to June of 2017, and then there was most recently an OVA released. The anime covered the first 3 volumes of the light novel series. This one about 2 siblings. The younger sibling, the girl, is a shut-in. The older sibling, the boy, is a light novel author, and he has this, of course, artist who provides the art for his light novels, and he is one day surprised to find out that it is his sister, and hilarity and questionable relationships ensue. I mean, I don't know what else to say about this series. This was number 1 last week, so I talked a little bit about it then, of course. Expressed my surprise that we have not yet had this series licensed in English. I'm still surprised by that, but who knows, maybe it'll be something that happens this year. At number 1, with 21,802 copies sold, Volume 11 of Dungeon ni Dei wo Motomeru no wa Machi gateru Daroka Gaiden, Sword Oratoria. Or, as we have it in English, Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon on the Side, Sword Oratoria. This one, of course, licensed for English release by Yen On. They'll be releasing Volume 8 February 19th of 2019. It also had a 12-episode anime series which covered Volumes 1 to 4. This, of course, the spin-off series of the main Machi series. This one focusing primarily on the members of Loki Familia, and it has its own storyline, but then it does have moments where it sort of interweaves with the main storyline as well, so that you can kind of see events that happened in the main series, but from the point of view of the members of Loki Familia. Plus it does a bit to sort of flesh out Ides Wallenstein's character, give us a little bit more on her backstory and such. So overall, a really good companion to the main series. I know that people are huge fans of both. I've read the first 2 of Sword Oratoria and found them that they were quite good. I just honestly haven't gotten around to more because I'm behind on everything, including the main series. So this one, I guess, it was on the list last week, but it had just come out. I think somebody was saying that it just made the list last week by a day. So now this is why it's hitting number 1, because it's had a full week of sales at this point. This week, I want to say a special thanks to Mitchell Von Regen, Yun, Ola OJ the Bull, and Shotaku, and all the rest of my patrons over on Patreon whose continued support allows me to get books to review here on the channel, allows me to pay for additional hosting for the Light Novel podcast so it's on as many platforms as possible. I really appreciate all of your help and your support. So that's your top 10 for January 14th to the 20th of 2019. I'll be back in a couple of days with the next top 10 countdown. In the meantime, thanks for joining me in this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.